Oh my God.
A miracle is taking place across the country as eyewitnesses are capturing what they claim are giant angels in the clouds on their phones.
Breaking footage from Texas shows what appears to be an angelic figure materializing in broad daylight above one of America's largest cities. Multiple witnesses, dozens of videos, all showing the same impossible sight. But wait until you see what followed 48 hours later. Entire neighborhoods underwater, families trapped, and weather patterns that defy explanation. I'm talking about June 13th, Houston, Texas. Regular people going about their day suddenly stopped and pointed at the sky. What they captured on their phones has left scientists scratching their heads and believers saying, "This is it, the moment we've been waiting for." But here's what's really going to blow your mind. The timing of what happened next isn't just coincidence, it's following a pattern that's been written about for thousands of years. And if you think this is just some random weather event, you need to see what's happening right now across the globe. Look at this footage right here. This isn't some grainy, blurry mess from one person's phone. We're talking about multiple people, different locations around Houston, all capturing the same thing at the same time. You can see the wings, man, like actual wing formations in the clouds. Now I know what you're thinking, AI, right? Deepfakes, computer graphics, all that stuff. Trust me, I thought the same thing at first. But here's the thing, this happened in real time. People were live streaming, posting to social media as it was happening. You can't fake that kind of coordination across dozens of different accounts. Sarah Martinez was driving to work when she pulled over to film this. "I've never seen anything like it," she said. "The whole sky just lit up orange, and there it was, clear as day." Her video got shared over 50,000 times in the first hour. But Sarah wasn't alone. Construction worker Mike Thompson captured it from the north side of the city. Same formation, same time. Teacher Linda Rodriguez got it from her classroom window. All different angles, all showing the same impossible sight. The Weather Service had no explanation. Clear skies, no storm systems, no atmospheric disturbances that could create this kind of cloud formation. Yet there it was, hanging in the sky for almost 20 minutes before it slowly faded away. And here's where it gets really interesting, because what happened next wasn't just unusual weather, it was biblical. Let me break down what we're actually seeing here, because the details are incredible. Look at the wing structure. You've got the thick upper portion that looks like actual bone structure, and then these delicate, feathery extensions. That's not how normal clouds form, people. Dr. James Peterson, a meteorologist with 30 years of experience, went on record saying he's never seen atmospheric conditions create this kind of symmetrical pattern. Clouds don't organize themselves into anatomically correct wing structures, he said. There's no scientific explanation for this level of detail and symmetry. But it gets even more specific. Look at the torso area. You can actually make out what appears to be a head, shoulders, even the suggestion of robes or flowing garments. The proportions are perfect. If this was just random cloud formation, the odds of it creating such a detailed humanoid figure would be astronomical. And the color, that orange-gold hue that multiple witnesses described, that's not normal cloud coloration. Even during sunset or sunrise, you don't get that kind of uniform, radiant glow across an entire formation. It's like the whole thing was lit from within. Jennifer Walsh, a professional photographer who happened to be in the area, said the lighting was unlike anything she'd ever captured. "I've photographed clouds for 20 years," she explained. "This wasn't reflecting sunlight, it was generating its own luminescence." The formation maintained its shape for exactly 19 minutes and 37 seconds. Multiple people timed it. Then it didn't just dissipate like normal clouds. Witnesses say it seemed to fade gradually, almost like it was deliberately withdrawing. But here's where nobody was prepared for, because while people were still posting these videos, still trying to figure out what they'd witnessed, something else was building. Something that would make this angelic appearance look like a gentle warning compared to what was coming. You know what's crazy? This exact scenario is described in the Bible.
Luke 21:25 says there will be signs in the sun, moon, and stars, and on the earth, distress of nations. Verse 26 talks about people fainting from fear at what's coming upon the world. But it's not just Luke. Revelation 16:15 mentions signs and wonders in the heavens. Matthew 24:30 specifically talks about the sign of the Son of Man appearing in the sky. For 2,000 years, people have been reading these verses, wondering what they meant. Well, now we might be seeing it firsthand. Pastor David Miller from Houston's First Baptist has been studying biblical prophecy for 40 years. When he saw the footage, he said it gave him chills. He said the description matches perfectly with angelic appearances throughout Scripture, the radiant light, the wing structure, the sense of divine presence that witnesses described. And here's what's really significant about the timing. We're not just talking about one isolated event. This Houston sighting happened during a period when multiple biblical signs are converging. The Euphrates River is drying up. That's Revelation 16:12. We've got wars and rumors of wars, Matthew 24:6. Earthquakes in various places, Matthew 24:7. But there's something else, something that makes this Houston event even more significant. In biblical accounts, angelic appearances often preceded major divine interventions. Think about it, angelic appearances before the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. An angel warned Lot's family to flee. Angels announced the birth of Christ. They appeared before major prophetic events throughout history.
So, when an angelic figure appears over a major American city and multiple witnesses capture it on video, we need to ask ourselves, what is this a warning about? What's coming next? The answer came faster than anyone expected, because within 48 hours of this sighting, Houston and the surrounding areas experienced something that meteorologists are calling unprecedented, something that turned entire neighborhoods into lakes and left families stranded on rooftops crying out for help. And when you see the footage of what happened next, when you see the sheer scale of destruction that followed this heavenly warning, you'll understand why people are saying this isn't just weather, this is judgment. 2 days later, the skies opened up like nothing anyone had ever seen. We're talking about rainfall that turned Houston into an ocean. Look at this footage. This isn't a river or a lake. This is someone's neighborhood, completely underwater. Maria Gonzalez was trapped in her house for 6 hours before rescue crews could reach her. "The water came so fast," she said through tears. "One minute we were watching the news about that angel thing. The next minute we're standing on our kitchen table watching our whole life float away." But it wasn't just Houston. The flooding spread across multiple counties. Entire shopping centers submerged, cars floating down what used to be highways. And the water? It wasn't just rising, it was moving with incredible force, creating waves that looked more like a tsunami than a flood. The emergency responder, Captain Rodriguez, said in 30 years of service he'd never seen anything like it. The water was moving with such power. It was picking up vehicles, houses, everything in its path. We had families calling from their attics, begging for help. Look at this aerial footage. You can see entire subdivisions that are just gone. Rooftops poking up like islands in a vast sea. And those waves? How do you get waves like that from rainfall? The water is churning, moving in patterns that don't make sense for a typical flood. The National Weather Service issued statements saying the rainfall amounts were beyond their modeling capabilities. In some areas, they recorded over 15 inches of rain in just 4 hours. That's more than many places get in an entire year. But here's what's really disturbing. The flooding followed the exact same pattern as the angel sighting. It started in the areas where the most witnesses had gathered to film the apparition, almost like it was targeted. Jennifer Walsh, the photographer who captured the angel images, lost everything. Her studio, her equipment, 20 years of work, all underwater. "It's like whatever we saw in the sky was warning us," she said, but we didn't understand what it meant until it was too late. The rescue operations went on for days. Coast Guard helicopters pulling people off rooftops, boats navigating through what used to be suburban streets. And the stories? Families separated, elderly people trapped in nursing homes, children crying for parents who couldn't reach them. But this wasn't just a local disaster, because while Houston was drowning, something else was happening around the world. Other signs, other warnings, other events that fit the same biblical pattern. And when you see them all together, when you connect the dots, the picture that emerges is absolutely terrifying. While Texas was underwater, Indonesia got hit with floods that displaced over 100,000 people, same week. Oman experienced flooding that turned desert regions into temporary lakes. Turkey got hit with winter storms that dumped snow in areas that hadn't seen snow in decades. But it's not just the flooding. The Euphrates River, one of the most significant waterways in biblical prophecy, is drying up at an unprecedented rate. Revelation 16:12 specifically mentions this river drying up to prepare the way for the kings of the East. Archaeological sites that have been underwater for centuries are now exposed. Dr. Sarah Ahmed, an archaeologist working in the region, said they're finding structures and artifacts that could rewrite history. It's like the earth is revealing its secrets, she explained. Things that have been hidden for thousands of years are suddenly visible. And then there's Saudi Arabia. For the first time in recorded history, snow fell in the desert regions. Thick, heavy snow that covered sand dunes and created scenes that looked like something from another planet. Local residents said their grandparents had never seen anything like it. The wars and conflicts are escalating too. Multiple regions experiencing unprecedented violence, nations turning against nations, just like Matthew 24 predicted. And the timing? It's all happening simultaneously, like pieces of a puzzle falling into place. But here's what's really significant. These aren't isolated events. They're following a pattern, a sequence that biblical scholars have been studying for centuries. And according to that pattern, if the biblical timeline is accurate, then what we've seen so far is just the beginning. Pastor Miller has been tracking these events on a global scale. When you map out what's happening worldwide, it's like watching prophecy unfold in real time. The signs are accelerating, becoming more frequent, more intense. And if the pattern holds, if the biblical timeline is accurate, then what's coming next will make these floods look like a gentle rain shower. Now, scientists are scrambling to explain all this. The official explanation for the Houston angel sighting is something called a lenticular cloud formation, basically wind patterns creating unusual shapes. But that doesn't explain the symmetry, the detail, or the luminescence that witnesses described. Dr. Peterson, the meteorologist I mentioned earlier, is sticking to natural explanations. Unusual weather patterns can create remarkable formations, he insists. Climate change is causing more extreme and unpredictable events, but other experts aren't so sure. Dr. Michael Harrison, an atmospheric physicist, went on record saying the Houston formation defied several laws of cloud dynamics. The structure was too stable, too detailed, and lasted too long for conventional explanations. Then there's the government angle. Some researchers believe we're seeing the results of weather modification programs gone wrong. Cloud seeding, atmospheric manipulation, experimental technologies that might be creating these unusual patterns. But the problem with all these scientific explanations, they don't account for the timing. They don't explain why these events are happening in the exact sequence and pattern described in biblical prophecies. They don't address why the flooding followed the angel sighting so precisely. And they definitely don't explain what happened to the people who witnessed these events firsthand. Because there's something else, something that the mainstream media isn't reporting. The witnesses, the people who saw the angel and survived the flooding, they're all describing the same thing, a sense of divine presence, of spiritual awakening, of knowing that something much bigger is happening. That's not something you can explain with meteorology or atmospheric physics. That's something else entirely. This isn't the first time in history that angelic appearances have preceded major disasters. In 1755, witnesses in Lisbon reported seeing angelic figures in the sky just days before the great earthquake that killed over 60,000 people.
Similar reports came from Pompeii before Mount Vesuvius erupted. But there's a difference this time. We have the technology to document everything. High-definition video, instant global communication, satellite imagery. Previous generations had to rely on written accounts and paintings. We have proof. Dr. Elizabeth Carter, a historian specializing in apocalyptic events, has been studying these patterns for decades. What we're seeing now matches historical accounts of divine warnings, she explained, but the scale and frequency are unprecedented. The biblical timeline suggests these signs will accelerate as we approach the end times. And if you look at the data, that's exactly what's happening. Natural disasters have increased by 300% in the last decade. Extreme weather events are becoming the norm, not the exception. But here's what's really significant about the Houston event. It happened in America, in one of our largest cities, captured by hundreds of witnesses with modern technology. This isn't some remote location or ancient account. This is happening in our backyard, in real time. And according to biblical prophecy, when these signs start appearing in the nations that have turned away from God, when they start manifesting in places of wealth and power, that's when you know the end is near. So what does this mean for you, for your family, for everyone watching this right now? If these events are truly biblical signs, if we're witnessing the beginning of end times prophecy, then everything changes. The way you live, the way you prepare, the way you think about the future. Pastor Miller has seen a 400% increase in people coming to his church since the Houston event. People are waking up, he said. They're realizing that maybe, just maybe, the Bible has been right all along. But it's not just about going to church, it's about understanding what's coming next. Because if the pattern holds, if the prophecies are accurate, then what we've seen so far is just the warm-up. The Bible talks about a time of great tribulation, of events that will shake the very foundations of the earth. And if Houston was a warning, if that angel was trying to tell us something, then we need to be ready. Because what's coming next is going to change everything. But here's what I haven't told you yet. The Houston angel wasn't the only one. 3 days ago, similar formations were spotted over Los Angeles. Yesterday, witnesses in New York reported the same thing. And this morning, something appeared over Washington, D.C. that has government officials in emergency meetings. Something that makes the Houston sighting look like a gentle introduction to what's really coming. The footage is being suppressed, but I've got sources, and what they're telling me about what appeared over our nation's capital will absolutely terrify you. That's coming in the next video. You're not going to want to miss this.